So let's look at focus and let's take just one of those elements that it takes to start a beginning of a goal. Let's take motivation, for example. What motivates you? What is going to give you drive to be able to get to your end goal, but also what's going to give you drive to start creating a habit? What do you need? What do you want? Well, you should already know what your motivation is. I can't tell you that, otherwise it wouldn't be yours. But what I can tell you is that your motivation, which is basically, let's say, like your willpower, needs to have a structured approach. It needs to have a plan to be able to make the habit become an actual reality. If it doesn't actually ever become a plan or a reality, really all it is just a dream or an affirmation. And that affirmation or dream is fine, but they're not actually going to help you start a plan, start a structure into being able to do repetitions to building up into an actual habit. Again, once you've done the habit, you can then start driving towards the goal. So now you have this feeling, perhaps in your chest or just in your mind's eye, and that is motivation. But along with motivation, there is really another important ingredient within this mix, and that is clarity. Clarity is key to motivation because you don't just feel like doing a habit. It's something that you have to structure, and you have to be able to devise a way of how you're going to start that habit. So I want to be able to learn to play that instrument that's sitting there in my bedroom and never does actually get played, or I want to be able to run that 10K marathon that I've always told myself that I could do. Those things are great, but they are actually your goals. What you want to be able to do is to be able to start a plan, create a structure. Otherwise, you're never actually going to be able to start at your beginning. What I teach my clients is to create a to-do list, and that list helps them to start the habit. The to-do list consists of three things: when, where, and how. When should the habit take place? Every day, every time you train, every time you eat, sleep, or anything that is a trigger to begin the cycle of that habit formation. Where would you form a new habit? Somewhere that triggers your mind to focus and perhaps create that repetition over and over again to make the habit more automated. How could you start forming a new habit? For example, a really easy way to think of it is that if you wanted to read more, you could place a book on your pillow or on your mattress just before you go to sleep. So when you get into bed, the book is waiting there for you, and you think to yourself, yeah, I could read a paragraph, I could read a page, and slowly but surely you start to get into the habit of doing that thing. You need to be able to formulate a plan to create a new habit. What people find really difficult to be able to start or create a new habit is that they are looking for a way to create a trigger. And that trigger needs to come from a place of repetition. And that repetition at the beginning may be slightly uncomfortable. It might be even mentally very strenuous. But nonetheless, it has to start, but it doesn't have to be quite as hard as you think it might be. So let's take that word repetition. Repetition literally means repeating over and over again. And so what I mean is that people are trying to find a trigger, something to click them into that habit. And you need to be able to set up small traps, if you like, to trap yourself into the habit. So you have to start it. You have to start doing it to be able to generate the initial phase of that habit. To force a habit often comes from a need or a want to change. For instance, you can't force something that needs repetition involved over and over again without having a plan. Without a plan, you may start the idea to create a new habit and you realize that repetition is the thing that you need to do. However, if you don't repeat that cycle enough times, all of that effort that you're trying to create a new habit without a plan and just repeating the same cycle without it actually evolving into the next thing it's supposed to will just end up with poor results and you feeling like you haven't achieved anything. The energy and enthusiasm it takes to make a successful habit is completely fruitless if your effort is to just get to the end result. Unless your willpower is phenomenally high for whatever reason, it's less than likely that you'll stick to a habit that needs repetition, repetition, and repetition if you don't formulate a plan. But a well laid out plan doesn't always work out.
It's the Yo Series.